Good morning, Dan and Amy. And as the White House and Congress turns its sights on a deal on DACA and border security with just a few weeks away before the president's defined deadline on the topic, it was interesting over the weekend on Fox. There was a very, very good interview with this dreamer named Hilario Yanez. And I understand Americans are dreamers too. But wanted to profile Mr. Yanez because it's really instructive for our discourse on the topic. First, Hilario telling his story of coming to America when he was 1 year old.
I came in the U.S., when I was a year old. I grew up as a child. At one point, I was homeless. I grew up without a father in my life, and also grew up in a rough neighborhood. But the reason I was able to overcome these challenges is because of the conservative values that I grew up with. And that's, number one, my faith in God. I believe in Jesus Christ, my Savior. Number two is my family. I also believe in value, prosperity, hope, and also working hard and standing on your own 2 feet. And look, at the end of the day, when I hear the national anthem, I get goosebumps all over me. I always pledge allegiance to the flag, and I would never disrespect it. I would never take a knee, and I would do anything to serve this country, to die for this country. And all I need is a chance.
And Yanez went on to thank Trump for the proposal that he offered on DACA recipients, and also, basically take Democrats to task for using people like him as mascots as they are, and using them as political bargaining chips as they are. And let me tell you, I'll take as many Hilario Yanez's as this country can hold. That's the point. It is about your understanding of the idea of America and people who want to pursue that idea versus those who want to undermine it. It is based on the conduct we expect from the people that are coming into this country or are going to be given some kind of permanent status and a path to citizenship, as could be the case for Mr. Yanez. That's the point, and I don't understand why discerning the Hilario Yanez's from those who mean to do others harm or otherwise undermine the promise of America is so difficult. I just don't understand why it's so complicated. I don't understand why we can't get agreement on that and have, proper background investigations into these individuals. And we know there'll be mistakes made, but at least set up a system where the American people can be confident that we're getting Hilario Yanez's and not people that mean to do others harm. And then in some cases, thanks to sanctuary dominions like Illinois, able to flee back to their home countries and avoid justice for families that they victimize. I don't understand. I don't understand why that's complicated.
A group of GOP senators, Tom Cotton, Chuck Grassley, they all were going to file a bill known as the Secure and Succeed Act. That's today. And pretty much it mirrors President Trump's offering citizenship for roughly 1.8 million immigrants in exchange for $25 billion in border security.
We'll have more on this topic with our next guest. He is New York Times bestselling author Ronald Kessler. He's written a number of books, that bestsellers, including on the Secret Service, the FBI, and the CIA, and the new book.
I can't wait.
Inside the Trump White House. And this includes Ronald Kessler sitting down with President Trump. That is coming out in April. Ronald Kessler, thanks again for joining us. Appreciate it.
Always very glad to be with you.
Now, I hope this recent announcement that Jeanine Pirro is doing a book in response to Michael Wolff's book isn't going to negatively impact your book.
No, my book will be the real inside story and a lot of revelations. I think she does a good sort of ideological approach, but people who really want to know what's going on will read this book coming out April 3rd. It's now called The Trump White House: Changing the Rules of the Game.
And do you focus on it? I mean, while Steve Bannon was there and post Steve Bannon?
Everything in the past year. I got incredible access, and it's a truthful account. It'll be unique because it will be an overall positive book, but at the same time, it'll have a lot of inside stories.
On this issue, we were talking about this immigration issue. Are you surprised at all that Trump pulled a little bit of a jujitsu move on Democrats to kind of put them in a corner on immigration reform with basically saying, I'll see your 800,000 DACA recipients and raise you another million of people who could have applied for DACA status?
Well, they don't call him a deal maker for nothing. That is what he's doing all the time, and a lot of the perplexing comments and outrageous comments are part of his shtick to get attention, to catch people off guard, to increase his power, and it's working. You're seeing the results both on the economy and the response of foreign countries that fear him.
Wow. Now, over the weekend, President Trump, he pretty much defended his former aide accused of domestic violence, Rob Porter. What do you see that as the Oval Office as in chaos?
Well, again, it's this outrageous comments business. I interviewed his longtime top aide, Norma Forderer. She was his top aide for 26 years, and it's the only interview she ever gave. And she said there are two Donald Trumps. One is the Trump who goes on TV, makes outrageous comments to get attention for his brand, and now, of course, for his presidency. And the other is the real Donald, who is very thoughtful, reasonable, and you know, behind the scenes, he called Rob Porter a sick puppy, and so you're going to see a lot of this jousting back and forth. He's like a prize fighter. He's always counter punching and feinting. I guess that's the way you pronounce it. That's what we're going to see with Donald for the next 8 years.
Did you have access to 8 years? You've already reelected him. Did you have access to either Porter or Flynn for Porter or Kelly for your book?
No, generally I stuck to the people who are in the Oval Office all the time, not Kelly, but all the other people who really know the real story. Other people are, you know, on the outskirts and don't know exactly what's really going on.
What is the real story in the White House in terms of in the inner circle, in terms of the stability there, and you know, the D.C. press corps narrative, at least up until last week with the Porter revelations, was that Kelly is the adult that's kind of pulled it together and made it a more stable, predictable place. Was that your takeaway?
Well, he's trying, but it's not always successful. Trump is his own chief of staff, but you know, on the other hand, if you look at the results, they're pretty incredible. So I think we're going to continue to see a lot of this infighting going on, and turnover. That's not going to change.
Do you think anybody misses Steve Bannon?
No, and of course, you know, the further he is from the White House, the more outrageous he gets. The Michael Wolff book said that when Trump made his comments about Charlottesville from New Jersey, that Bannon thought he should be removed under the 25th Amendment, that he was mentally unfit. I was interviewing Bannon at that very moment when Trump was making those comments, and he was gleeful about Trump's comments. In fact, he said he called him twice and urged him on and said, if you retract anything or revise anything, the press will just say it's too little, too late. So that's the difference between the Wolff book and the reality.
Yeah, interesting. You know, the Wolff book standard for truth was if it sounds true, it is true. That's kind of a new standard.
Or even if it doesn't sound true.
Yeah, right.
Who would believe that Melania, cried all day when he was elected, didn't want him elected, that he didn't want to become president, even though he was going around the clock at rallies. Just totally fiction.
The only person who in the kind of inner sanctum who speaks less than Jared Kushner is Hope Hicks, and she has been kind of pulled to the center of attention because of this Rob Porter matter and because of she was dating Rob Porter. Give us your sense, your profile of Hope Hicks and her role in the White House. I mean, you're talking about like a 30-year-old comm director who was basically flacking for Ivana's fashion lines before Trump ran for president.
Well, the results seem to be pretty good. People who deal with her say that she does have good judgment. The fact that the White House cooperated with Bannon with Michael Wolff was really Bannon. Bannon was pushing the book. Hope Hicks was sort of on the sideline, and so I think she's going to be there for the whole 2 terms.
But is she an influencer or an order taker?
She does make suggestions about press interviews, but not necessarily about strategy beyond that.
All right. And what about John Kelly? Do you see him staying in his role? I mean, there was talk over the weekend that if the president wants to replace him, he will resign, and there's a list of people to replace him.
Not really. Obviously Trump is aware of possible replacements for everybody, but no, I think Kelly will stay. Trump, will make these side comments about people from time to time, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be kicked out or that they're really in disgrace. So I think in his case, he's going to stay.
Give us a little tease for your book that comes out on April 3rd. Something or someone that Trump commented upon that will surprise us.
I really have to keep those items quiet.
Nice
until
try,
it comes
Dan.
out. You really got a lot out of me.
I tried to Connie Chung you. Come on, just whisper it. Whisper it in my ear. Okay, he is Ron Kessler. Again, to give me the revised title of the book.
It is The Trump White House, and the subtitle is Changing the Rules of the Game, coming out April 3rd. Has a really impressive jacket with a picture of both Trump and Melania. You can't beat that.
All right, he is Ronald Kessler. He's a New York Times best-selling author, written books on the Secret Service and the FBI, and now one on President Trump and his administration. Ronald, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to